So we are on the topic of appropriate action. Is what we started with yesterday. And we are considering appropriate action rather than being determined by a fixed set of moral rules. We're saying that it requires us to respond creatively, ethically, and wisely to the situations we encounter based on our values. And that can be a high ideal. So yesterday, when I went into my meditation, I really thought right away, what's my process of figuring out an appropriate action? What's already happening? Rather than what would I like it to be, what am I already doing? This often, comes to me like if I have an idea, how do I put that in action? Because I have a lot of good ideas. Nellie and I talk about this a lot. We've got tons of good ideas, but putting them into action, following through, and helping them to sustain a good life, it's a whole thing. Um, when do I give up and go in a different direction with my actions? Like, I'm not clear a lot of times. When do I stay with something longer? Um, this is often a big question for me in my actions. So in my meditation, I thought, let me look at something small and see if some of the ways in that small taking action does feel applicable to larger situations in my life. So my example was rock painting. Some friends had put together a rock painting event, and my idea was to paint the symbol of conditionality um, on a rock for my garden. So sounds simple, maybe not. I'm going to show you a picture of this conditionality symbol. Okay. So this is a traditional conditionality symbol, and this is made out of ivory, and it's often considered a knot or a flow. It's showing that things are connected. It's showing that even at the farthest reaches, things might not be apparently connected, but they're in the same stream. Is the if is the image large enough that people can see it? Okay. Yeah. So if you don't know what a conditionality symbol looks like, you can always look up other versions of them on the internet. It's a thing. But in my mind, because I'm very food oriented, it looks like pretzels. Lots of pretzels coming together. Those big thick pretzels with little, I like larger sprinklings of salt on the top. But the idea of we have a symbol, and I'm going to stop the share now. We have a symbol for the teaching of conditionality. And so I wanted this to go on my rock. So I was thinking, how did I go about doing this? How did I go about putting this into action? And I did see that awareness had to come first. Like I had to be aware of this idea. I had to be aware of um, the tools that I had to work with, the colors of the paints, the sizes of the rocks. I happened to choose a very difficult rock, not a smooth, flat rock. Um, and I had to really be aware of like the field that I was going to go play in for this action to come about. Um, but then the other thing that was interesting to me when I was thinking about it is I really depended on my likes and dislikes. And I really looked at like what colors do I like? What what don't I like? What ideas do I like of how am I actually going to get that symbol on there? What do I think I can do? And in the past, likes and dislikes have often gone with shame or not being good enough or comparison. And somehow in this rock painting event, because it was a fun event, right? This is not set up for the rock painting competition. Um, I could kind of ease into thinking about this with a little more freedom and a little less worry about the outcome. So, but there is a dependency in my process of what do I feel? And often the feeling, many people talk about this, is somewhere in my body, um, or mind, body and mind. Look, for example, I could look at the color chartreuse and kind of go, ugh, like your face would kind of go like that, or something like this, like, or I feel a little knot in my stomach when I look at neon yellow. Um, or I feel a little bit of lightness or brightness with the blue I picked. Or, when I mix colors, that look like mud. Oh, I like mud today. This is going in a good direction. But I feel that sometimes in my body and other times I don't. Because what really seemed prominent for me was these little reminders, like voice tags that come up in my experience that direct my next actions. Like, don't go in that direction. You're gonna really, you're gonna paint that too dark. It's just not going to work. But these little reminders that come, they're almost not apparent unless I'm aware of them. And so sometimes I would be more aware of, oh, this looks good. Oh, this doesn't. And other times I wasn't aware of that at all. Now, it was also a social event. So I noticed that as a meditator, I don't know if that makes me different or not, but I went in and I really focused on the project. I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm doing something here. Um, but then I was like, okay, this is a social event. I have to kind of come out of the focus on the project and talk with others, see what they're doing, bring that kind of larger field into what I was creating. So let's go to the next screen share. One second. You're going to get to see what happened, what came out of this process. Okay. So, as it turned out, there is no stencil for the conditionality symbol, and I couldn't make one, and I couldn't put the symbol on the rock because you can see there's lots of craters and there's a lot of cracks. So each step of the way, like I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And so this is what it ended up becoming. As my husband would call it, a fish, what somebody else called it, the stars and the moon. And I really think it looks like the conditionality symbol because of my intentions. And I put dots that were intermixed, and cracks were like kind of like the salt on the pretzel. So I could see the fruits of my creative intentions here and how it came out. But if I didn't tell anybody, they had no idea what this is or all the meaning that I had behind it. So my, I would say my actions really don't always show my intentions. And that was very interesting for me, is that, oh, I automatically assume people know what I mean when I take an action. But often there's all these other things behind it. Sometimes even things I'm unaware of until we have an interaction and people give me feedback. Um, but our actions are made up of a series of intentions, a series of actions that are strung together along the way. For me, the ethics come in more as like reflecting on, did did anything happen that was untoward, that I need to amend, that I need to adjust? Um, I have a trust in my practice that of the intention of being ethical, that I don't have to ask myself that every step of the way. That's often more of a reflective process for me. Um, so our prompts usually go in this direction. You can take this up or you don't have to. Do you have a process? for deeming what's appropriate action? Is it something similar? Is there something small you can um, reflect upon during your meditation that might give you some more clues? Yeah, how do you consider your process for what you deem appropriate action? 10 minutes on the dot.